Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of the Melanin Mayhem podcast, hosted by your favorite country girl, Renee Davis. If this is your first time at the Ministry of Mayhem, hey babes, you picked the right one today, shoot. Melanin Mayhem drops a dime on some of the most prolific, diabolical, and downright audacious criminals that did some heinous shit but really didn't get no play in the mainstream media. And they got us out here thinking that there are crimes that black people don't commit. Man, that's cap all day. But don't worry, I put they ass on blast over here because we, the ones with that sweet, sweet melanin in our soul, need to know that some real shit been going on. And it's my job to report the news and put you up on game. And if you like the way I do what I do, you will become a member of the Noir Nation, my motherfucking crew. Hey, my loves. I hope your April has started out on a good foot. I'm so glad y'all here, man. I miss y'all so much. Ooh, let me tell you. Y'all be showing out for the country girl. And I love it. Man, the messages that y'all send me, the suggestions for future mayhem makers, laughing about something my ignorant ass done said on an episode, as well as the gentle gatherings. Because yes, indeed, the country girl does get gathered in her DMs. The Noir Nation don't play. When I do something that they don't think I should have done, they tell me about it. And I'm with all of that because, again, this is a safe space and I know that it comes from love and it's sincerely for helping me make this little podcast of mine even better. And I love y'all real bad for it. And that's enough with the love fest. It's time for us to do what we do. And woo child, I got a doozy for you today. The man we gonna talk about today was a pretty boy. Oh yes. Man, when I tell you that all through my research, this nigga's looks was the first thing that came up. Like before they started talking about the crime, they were talking about how good he looked. But you know, if he's our mayhem maker, we know that his good looking ass was a super criminal too. So today, we got a nigga fine as frog help. Talk good, but broke as a joke, but like the finer things in life. Y'all know the type. And this nigga definitely used what he got to get what he want. But my question is, what happens to this type of person? You know, the one that's always able to get somebody else to foot the bill for their life? What happens to them when them looks and that charm can't get the job done? Well, in this story, it resulted in a nigga going from a thief to a murderer. And a damn good one if you count for the fact that they never found the bodies. This nigga had Wichita and Kansas City, Missouri shooketh. But I ain't gonna hold you. So let's go on and get this thing going, Noir Nation. Bringing to the front of the congregation, this week's Melanin Mayhem maker is Mr. Richard Grissom Jr. I call him Pretty Ricky. All right, let's get into it. Our mayhem maker was born in South Korea on a military base, November 10th, 1960. His father was an unknown soldier, and his mama was a local Korean woman, also name unknown. Now, y'all probably wondering why I didn't say his name. Let me break it down for you. You know what I'm saying? In the 50s and 60s, U.S. servicemen stationed overseas would get jiggy with the local women, you know what I'm saying? Just throwing raw dick all over the place. And we know that when you shoot up the club, there are casualties. And the women, they would get pregnant, and them dudes, they would head back to the States without another thought or care of the offspring that they left behind. This made for a rash of South Korean women, pregnant and unwed, which was a serious no-no. Add in a dose of melanin into the mix, and you had an extra stigma attached to that ass. Now, in South Korea, they called those of mixed descent Twiggies. And Twiggies and their mamas was at the bottom of the social hierarchy. I'm telling you, that one drop rule is worldwide, honey. Like, there are thousands of mixed race children, now adults, that have no idea who their mama and daddy were. And most of those babies, they were abandoned at orphanages if they weren't killed. And our mayhem maker was no different. Our mayhem maker did 3 years in the baby pen before he was adopted by a black couple, Sergeant Richard Grissom and his wife, Fredonia Grissom. Fredonia. I bet her daddy was named Fred. That's not the point. Anyway, Sergeant Richard and his wife, Fredonia Grissom, they adopted this baby and they renamed him Richard Grissom Jr. And since the daddy Grissom was a sergeant, he's in the military, they did the military bounce around for a whole bunch of years. And finally, when Richard Jr. was in his teens, they settled down out there with Dorothy and Toto in Kansas. Well, up until now, there was nothing remarkable about Little Richard. He was a military brat and seemed pretty normal. Once they settled into Kansas, he finally got to settle down into one school, which happened to be Leavenworth High School, and for the most part, he was a popular kid. On the football team, you know what I'm saying? His little mixed ass was easy on the eyes, so he was never without female companionship. They said he had a ton of friends, and they all say that Richard was intelligent, soft-spoken, and polite. We've heard that before. But Richard's polite ass also had a dark side that nobody thought he was capable of. See, I don't subscribe to that. A motherfucker always shows signs of crazy, throwed off, or not quite right. People just overlook them flags. But eventually, all that shit gonna come to the light, right? And for Richard, it came to the light when he was 16 years old. January 27th, 1977. Again, he's 16 years old, and he's gotten into an argument with his parents. In some Disney Channel behavior, he storms out the door because he mad, right? But the nigga don't go far. He go like next door. His neighbor, 72-year-old Hazel Meekle. Now, why he go to that woman's house, tied her up, and beat the brakes off of her and stabbed her with a goddamn railroad spike like over and over and over and over again? This woman is 72 years old. And in 1977, 72 was old as shit. You know what I'm saying? And at 16, him young and spry? That's some bullshit of the highest order. And to tie her up and then beat her and then stab her? That's not a fair fight, sir. But his young dumbass led the police directly to him, honey. Followed his footprints in the snow right to where he was hiding. Like, make it make sense. Use a little dumbass young nigga. But this is the 70s, like I said, and they sent this little young nigga after he beat Hazel down and killed her in a most heinous way to a youth detention center. Yes, all of this shit went down as a juvenile. So he in YDC. He would end up getting his GED from the YDC. But peep this, because they tried him as a youth, they sealed his record so nobody would ever know just how much of a monster this little nigga was. And when he turned 21, they let his ass go free. Yep, they let his little ass out, and he promised that crime was a thing of the past. He had learned from his mistakes. Sir, beating an old woman to death and stabbing her is not a mistake, little nigga. That's a lifestyle. You like beating up helpless old ladies. That makes you a punk ass fuckboy young nigga. Whatever. Now his parents, the adoptees, they still rocking with the spawn of Satan though. When he got out, they encouraged him to take this opportunity at a fresh start, and Richard enrolls in Kansas State University in 1980. Now KSU is in Manhattan, Kansas, for anybody who didn't know, which is like Riley County. He goes to school and he wanted to major in engineering, but his parents wanted him to do computer science. Richard didn't want to do that. And do y'all know that this was the straw that broke the camel's back for his parents? Not that he killed y'all neighbor, but that because he didn't want to be in IT? Really? Apparently so, because they was like, fuck that and fuck you. And they stopped dealing with Richard altogether. Okay. But that didn't stop Richard. He started going to classes. He joined the racquetball team. Well, they say he was a beast on the court, right? Got him a little apartment off campus, little job at Arby's. Looks like Richard is on the straight and narrow now, like you say. But by the fall, instead of enriching his mind through academics, Richard was back on his criminalistic shenanigans, honey. Got little sticky fingers. He catches a felony theft charge in Riley County, Kansas, November 5th, 1982, for stealing $190 from a company that he was working for. They gave him a sentence of like 2 to 5 years, 3 years probation, but that nigga didn't do now a day of time. Why you say that, Nate? Because in January of 1983, just over, what is that, 2 months later, this young nigga catch another theft charge, this time in Manhattan, Kansas. Look at here, Mr. Sticky Finger Man. Keep your hands off other people's shit. But I guess he figured, why not take it? Because the nigga skate every time he get caught. Every time. For this particular crime, he pled no contest. They gave him 3 years probation. But he was already on probation when he did this shit. So, don't that mean he should go to jail? No? Okay. But okay, y'all didn't send him to jail. 7 days later, here come a warrant from Austin, Texas. Well, wait a minute. When the fuck did he have time to go to Texas? That's like 10 hours from Kansas. However and whatever, Texas wants his ass for a failure to appear in court to answer for a theft and misuse of a credit card charge. Sounds like he talked some sweet young lady into letting him use her emergency-only credit card and then charge that bitch up. Now, I couldn't find anywhere whether it actually was served. I'm talking about that warrant, but it didn't matter because another one popped up July 14th, 1983. This time in Johnson County, Kansas. This nigga is the DJ Khaled of another one. Every time you turn around, Richard got a charge for some theft, some credit card shit. The nigga is a scamming scammer who scams. This time, the nigga used somebody's credit card to buy $19.08 worth of gas. But I'm saying, if you gonna steal something, gas is important. $19.08 though. But you know what? Instead of locking his ass up, they allowed him to pay the Vickers Oil Company that little money, and then they just dismissed the charges. Side note, I was so distraught when I saw that for them $19.08, this nigga got 14.4 gallons of gas. Ooh, I remember when gas was $1.30 a gallon. Honey, them was the days. Anyway, ain't none of that the point. Let's get on back to the mayhem. So still in his petty thief bag, his next charge comes October of 1983, this time in Overland Park, where he got a misdemeanor for theft and fucking with the police. For that, they gave him 10 days and a year probation. Again, he been on probation since he killed that old lady, but that don't matter clearly. I'm going to say that maybe he listened to the good angel and he didn't do nothing for like the next year, right? Or at least he didn't get caught. The next October 2nd, 1984, he got caught stealing somebody's Mazda RX-7. Sir, go buy your ass a car and will you just stop with all this tomfoolery? They locked him up. They gave him a $2,000 bill. Some chick signed his bond. He didn't go to court. So they took that bail money and then they reset it to $10,000. Some chick signed the bond. He pled guilty March 29th, 1985, and it really didn't do nothing. They told him that he had to do restitution because he caused $12,239 worth of damage to these folks' car. Sir. Please, sir. Stop, sir. Apparently, Pretty Ricky got a thing for Mazdas because while he was waiting to see the judge for that first RX-7, he stole somebody else's Mazda, February 16th, 1985. Like, how you waiting to go to court on some theft, but you still out here thieving? Like, make it make sense. But, you know, he was in a different county. He was doing some creative spelling, gave him a different spelling of his last name or whatever. He didn't even go to court for that shit, and they eventually dismissed the charges. February and March of 1985, he stayed getting caught up on some shit, giving fake names, stealing cars, not going to court. Just real out here in these street nigga shit, right? But then he stepped up his stealing game. How about he stole the keys to an office building and then went in and stole a bunch of checks, then started forging them motherfuckers. They caught him and they prosecuted him, but it was just a slap on the wrist considering that this nigga broke in and had blank checks. They just gave him 1 count of theft, 1 count of burglary, and just gave him 2 years for it. There has been no consequences for Richard's actions. This 2 years is like the first time Richard actually is going to get some time, right? It's like Richard kept getting caught in a revolving door of in and out of jail. Like, how you got all these good-looking mugshots, sir? You really should try something else because clearly you aren't a good criminal. You keep getting caught. And now you in here to do these 2 years and you begging a motherfucker to let you out because you sorry and you ain't gonna do it no more. Like, I'm so for real. Y'all, he was up in the Kansas State Penitentiary writing 3-page letters to the judge, asking the judge to please reconsider his sentence. It wasn't but 2 years, nigga. Listen to this shit he wrote to the judge. Quote, I'm not requesting you condone my past illicit actions. I would like to regain my priceless freedom. All of the time I've served, along with being falsely accused, is a memorable deterrent to even fathom committing another illicit action. End quote. Nigga, what? Oh, so you an old loquacious ass criminal, huh? If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Trying to put on your big boy boxers, honey. You're probably trying to get up out that motherfucker because you's a pretty boy. I mean, they describe him as 5'11", 185 pounds, and chiseled features. That's how the white folks say a nigga fine as frog hair. So my guess is that Richard was trying to get that ass out of prison expeditiously because somebody was trying to make him their bottom bitch. This is the first time you really doing a little piece of time in a real prison with real killers and shit. You uncomfortable, huh? Oh well, nigga. So he do that time, and on March 23rd, 1988, this nigga is a free man again. You think he learned his lesson? No, let's see. He gets a job working as maintenance at an apartment complex somewhere in Kansas City. That's what his thing is now. He bounces around through different apartment complexes doing work, right? And you know, he's personable and the ladies chat him up on a regular because he's a cutie and ain't nothing wrong with a little maintenance man dick down on occasion. I'm just saying, if you single and you are a willing participant in the dick downing of it all, do what you do, ladies. All right, Nay. Yeah, this nigga a petty thief. Ain't nothing prolific about that. Why the fuck is we talking about this nigga? Well, you should know by now, Noir Nation, that if I bring him to the front of the congregation, there is something there. And in the case of this nigga Richard, oh, he about to graduate from a petty thief to a full-blown serial offender. But it wouldn't be before a few more thefts, right? Richard ain't got a pot to piss in or one to throw it out of. So one of his friends took him in and set him up nicely. Told him that as long as he stayed out of trouble, he had his back. He let him stay in his basement rent-free. Let Richard drive his cars. Gave him money. That sounds more like a sponsor than a friend, right? I'm just saying. But it wouldn't be long before Richard started biting the hand that fed him. You see, apparently, Richard had tapped into his Korean heritage and he had started writing bad checks in the name of Ricky Y.C. Cho. This nigga had done wore out his given name and he was trying to see if that Korean name was gonna catch that same heat. A mess. So the stores with these bad checks, they started calling the friend's house looking for Richard's Korean ass, right? And the friend was like, wait a minute. I told you I wasn't for the bullshit. So what did Richard do? Some niggatry of the highest order. The friend that he was mooching off of, he was letting Richard drive his cars, right? Cars in the plural, meaning he had more than one. Well, Richard takes it upon himself to sell one of friend's cars. Yes, forged his friend's signature and everything. Now, he sold a car to a chick that he was kicking it with. When she couldn't get the car registered in her name, she sued Friend. Talking about Friend knew that Richard was out there doing the do, and he co-signed off the fuckery, and he was fucking her over on the sale of the car. They done got my money. I can't do nothing with this. And the friend was like, wait a minute. I ain't had nothing to do with none of this. And so immediately he tell Richard, you got to go. And he put Richard out. Now, if that ain't some nigga shit, how you gonna sell somebody else's shit and you live in their house? Now you homeless, carless, and sponsorless. So what do a pretty boy broke ass nigga do with no options? You go find another sponsor. That's what the fuck you do. And this nigga ain't had no shortage of chicks to lay up on. Enter Terry Renee Manses. She was 25 years old and a student at Butler Community College, right? She also worked at a law firm. She was about her business, had her shit together, living her best young white free life, right? Her and Richard, they friendly. I think they met at a club that he happened to be working at. He chatted her up, spit a little game, and parlayed that into an invitation to pull up at Terry's place sometime. Well, shortly after Friend tossed his ass to the curb, he had to put the full court press on Terry because nigga needed somewhere to stay. And it looked like it might be working. Him and her had a date planned for June 6, 1989. So Terry go to work, she get off, handle her business, and then she get ready for her date. Well, the next day, June 7th, 1989, Terry didn't show up for work. And Miss Terry, she ain't the type to pull a no call, no show. Her job calling her house, no answer. The job call her parents, they ain't seen her neither. But they know something in the milk ain't clean if Terry didn't go to work because she don't play by her coin, honey. They also know that Terry's neighbor, not the parents I'm talking about, they also know that Terry's neighbor is a cop. So they hit him up on some go up in there and check on my baby type of shit, right? And he do. Tell me why the cop neighbor, he legally breaks in and finds Terry ass deader than a motherfucker. Honey, she been stabbed so many goddamn times. And come to find out she been strangled too. I mean, that's bad, but how about this? The motherfucker that did all this shit left a handwritten note on her body talking cash shit. Audacious much? How your broke ass gonna kill this woman and leave a note? Is that what happened when we mixed black with Korean? I mean, he stabbed her like 50 times. That was the note. That shit spoke volumes. The note was just doing too much. Or was it? Maybe the note was meant to throw the cops off because besides talking shit about Terry, the note said something about the judge is next. What judge? But remember, Terry worked for a law office and her boss just so happened to be a retired judge. I think the nigga was trying to send the cops on a wild goose chase to not look for his ass, right? And quiet as it's kept, it worked. They ain't looking for Pretty Ricky. The cops ran down all the possibilities of anybody who might want that smoke with the judge, right? Nothing in paying out. Then they went all up and through Terry's shit. No fingerprints, no blood that wasn't Terry's, no forced entry. So it looked like she knew her killer and she let him in. They had a witness that said that they saw Terry's car leave at the crack of dawn on the 7th, the same day she was found. But the neighbor just said they just saw Terry's car leaving. They couldn't say for certain that Terry was driving. And y'all know, if you see your neighbor car pulling out, you, like most people, are inclined to think that the owner of the car is the person that's driving it. It's some more of that see and don't see type of shit, right? Now, they did end up finding Terry's car. That bitch was ditched a couple of blocks away at a random apartment complex, and a bunch of Terry's shit was in the car. The goddamn answering machine was in the car. Who in the fuck take the answering machine? A conniving motherfucker. Children, I'm talking to you. Y'all might not know nothing about an answering machine from back in the day. See, unlike voicemail, if the answering machine wasn't hooked up to the phone line, when somebody called the phone, it would just ring and ring and ring, as it did when Terry's job and her parents started calling looking for her after she didn't show up for work. There were no usable prints in the car or on her shit, right? All they know is that another car that was parked by Terry's car had the license plate stolen off their car. Right around the same time Terry's car showed up. And we know who likes stealing cars, right? We also know that Terry died from getting the life strangled out of her. That's how she died. That was her cause of death, strangulation. So the damn stabbing, it was kind of like somebody threw a hissy fit or some shit, right? Because she was already gone to glory before the stabathon happened. Maybe somebody didn't get what they wanted and they killed Terry because she wouldn't give it up. Or Terry gave up what she had and somebody cut her water off because she was going to tell. Okay. Now, mind you, up till now, Pretty Ricky ain't really been a killer like for real, for real. I mean, yeah, he fucked Hazel's ass up back in the day, but since then, there's no evidence that Richard was taking him down like that, right? All his criminal history post-adolescence is thievery. The nigga boosted cars, misappropriated funds of others, but not killing. Which is not to say that the nigga couldn't have been out here getting it in, but it don't feel like it because his next foray into fucking a bitch up, it ain't go nowhere near as planned. Y'all, I'm gonna try to do this without laughing, but this story makes me laugh. I'm sorry. 5 days after sending Terry to the upper room, he back at it again. He been scoping out this apartment complex in Kansas City, Missouri, cause they got a dim little parking lot, right? And cause most of the lights was blacked out and he could just sit there and stalk without nobody noticing his ass, right? Well, on June 12th, 1989, a chick named Michelle Cap was kicking it with her dude. It got late, she ready to call it a night. So her dude bounces. She take a shower, check to make sure her house is all locked up tight, and then she turn the lights out and go to bed. Well, around 2 o'clock in the morning, she just wake up, straight up out her sleep. Some shit ain't right. Starting with the fact that the light in her room is on and that bitch was off when she went to bed. But you know, when you wake up startled out your sleep, it take you a minute to take in the scene, right? But that was a minute too long, honey, because the next thing Michelle knew, a motherfucker was on her ass and she didn't know who motherfucker was, but she knew that it was clearly about to go down. Now, Michelle, I don't know. Maybe she got a little melanin in the fam. Maybe she was just the wrong white girl to fuck with because Miss Michelle, she put up a hell of a fight. Honey, they tore that bedroom up. They even broke the bed, honey. But this is a man, and he's able to overpower her by telling her to stop fighting because he got a gun. And then he proceeds to pull something out his pants. He put that peace be still to her dome. Now, for sure, that'll take the fight right out of bitch, right? But this, it was kind of different. At least to me it was. Because normally, all you gotta do is put that steel on a bit and you ain't got to do no more talking. But this nigga say some shit like, go ahead, feel it. Put your hands on it. You'll see I got a gun. Nigga, what? Who you trying to convince? Me or you? But nevertheless, Michelle ain't got no more fight because this nigga got a gun. But instead of doing her right there, this nigga tell her to get up. They finna go. Wait a minute, what the fuck is this, a field trip? Like, I ain't trying to die. Don't get me wrong. But if you gonna do me, you gonna do me right here. Why the fuck we got to leave? Shit, but you know what? It wasn't me. Thank God. And Michelle, she is doing as she is told, including touching that damn gun. And she, like me, thought something was off. The nigga tell her to put some clothes on. Cause Michelle sleeping in her birthday suit. And again, this is an all access type of situation. So tell me again, nigga, why we leaving? Either way, she throw on something and he march her ass out the door and they walking towards the steps. Michelle stay on the 4th floor, right? So as they walk down the first flight of steps, she like, shit. He got her by the arm. He got the gun in her back. They walking down the 2nd flight of steps. Michelle asked, thinking of a master plan. Cause what the fuck, right? They go down the 3rd flight of steps. And Michelle like, shit, I ain't going out like this. That's what I'm talking about, white girl. What we finna do? They got to that last flight of steps before you get to that dark ass parking lot. And Michelle was like, fuck it, and started screaming her head off, right? She trying to jerk away from the dude and whatever, but he still got a little grip on her. And then he had the nerve to ask her, what you doing? Michelle tickled me here, y'all. She said she told that motherfucker, I don't think your gun real. Nigga, I'm ready to show me state. You gonna have to show me. And she's still yelling while this conversation is going on, right? She yelling, help, rape, fire, anything to get a motherfucker to come out their apartment and come help her ass. Y'all, tell me why this nigga was like, alright, you want to say hello to my little friend? And he proceeds to shoot Michelle at point blank range, 2 times in her chest. I'm sorry, y'all. But the shit is funny because Michelle braced for impact, get ready to fall out. But again, something ain't right. Instead of that pop pop, it was more like ping ping. Instead of feeling like her chest had been hit 2 times with some lead, it felt more like a bitch had pinched her. Michelle still yelling. This motherfucker done shot her with a BB gun. If you don't get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, I'm sorry. I just can't stop laughing. This is a serious situation, no doubt, right? Full stop. But baby, he was lucky he tried that shit on a white woman. Cause honey, once I realized you out here capping with this cap gun, nigga, it'd been straight look if you book time. Now we got to dance. Well, this nigga is not pleased that Michelle done called his bluff. And now he out here all embarrassed and shit. So what he do? He bopped Michelle upside the head with that BB gun. And what it do? It broke. I'm sorry. He swing on Michelle a couple of more times, but she blocking him. So you still ain't really doing nothing. So what happens? At this point, the nigga just walk away. Because clearly nothing is going as you planned. So Michelle is sitting here stunned, trying to figure out what in the entire fuck, when all of a sudden the nigga come back towards her and she like, oh shit, he finna beat my ass now. Y'all, tell me why this nigga came back to get that little piece of his BB gun that broke off. Oh God. See, that's what I'm saying. This nigga is a thief. He's not a murdering murderer that murders. A BB gun? She should have whooped his ass. But he grabbed his shit and he ran for the parking lot, got in his car, and he left. And so Michelle, she went back to her apartment to call the police, but her phone ain't working. So she go next door. The cops come. A couple of her neighbors, they come out and they say that they had heard her hollering, but they thought somebody else was going to take care of it. You know how that shit go, right? Motherfuckers ain't going to help. But somebody did look out the window, told the police that he saw a light-skinned black man get into a dark-colored Toyota and pull out of there like the devil was chasing his ass. But check this shit out. The police, them motherfuckers ain't did no type of investigation. They asked Michelle a few questions and then they dipped. How about Michelle found a flashlight and a knife in her bedroom? Them motherfucking police didn't even bother to search for Kluber first. Honey, maybe after Michelle had told them that a motherfucker had tried her with a BB gun, the police just zoned out. Now, Michelle, she could not figure out how that motherfucker got in her house. The door was locked. They had to unlock it to leave. All her windows were locked, too. So how the fuck did that motherfucker get up in there? Oh, and that Toyota that the neighbor saw. Guess who owned a brown Toyota? Pretty Ricky. Too bad the cops didn't give a shit. They told Michelle she could drop off that evidence that she had found, including them 2 BBs, at the police station whenever she got a chance. You motherfuckers, you. Ugh. Throw the whole police department away. A mess. Anyway, out here without a care in the world, Ricky is still on the come up, trying to find something, trying to make something happen, right? He also, at this point in time, he go and rent a storage unit in one of his Korean alias names. But what I want to know, what a nigga who ain't got shit need with a storage room? I don't know, maybe he was using it as his own apartment. Who knows? All I know is 24-year-old Joan Marie Butler from Overland Park, she was going through it a little bit, right? She was working 2 jobs, one at an advertising agency and a little part-time situation at this little shop in a plaza, right? She was on her way to work in the rain and she stopped at a red light. And the motherfucker ran into the back of her. Oh, damn. He hit her hard enough to make the airbags deploy, and that shit fucked up her face. Now, y'all know, vanity is a real thing, and when your face fucked up, shit really ain't right. Then here come the insurance company. They totaled out her car, so now she got to get a new whip. She was trying to get a new apartment closer to a job. That shit fell through. So, like, she legit having the week from hell, and she was over all of the shit. She jumped down in a rental car, and she gonna go see a friend from college to get her woosah on in Kansas City, Missouri. Well, Joan was last seen early in the morning on June 18th, 1989, and the next day, kind of like Terry, her ass didn't show up for work, and she was reported missing. Now, her rental car has been seen around town, but she ain't the one driving. A light-skinned black man is in the driver's seat. Eventually, her rental car is found at some random-ass apartment complex, and witnesses say that a good-looking, light-skinned black man was seen running from the car. When police search the car, they find 1 drop of blood in that bitch, in the trunk. Ooh, not a good place to find the blood. They also find a driver's license with the name Yoon Cho on it. But the picture on that bitch was Richard's. This another one of his Korean aliases. And now that Terry been taken off the board, it's time for Pretty Ricky to find a new sponsor victim. This nigga is desperate. He ain't got time to be putting on for weeks and weeks at a time. This bitch need a place to stay now, right? So he got to get on a bitch ASAP. 6 days later, to be exact, 22-year-old Christine Roosh and her roommate, Teresa Brown, who was also 22, them chicks was having a party on June 24th, 1989. You see, Teresa was moving because she had got this good job that she was about to start. So this was going to be one last soiree for the ghouls. You know what I'm saying? They had the party, and the next day, on the 25th, They didn't show up for work. That shit sound real familiar, don't it? The last time they seen was on June 26, 1989. Well, their co-workers was thinking, they probably hung over or whatever. We ain't gonna worry about it. But when they went to their apartment, the hot curlers was still on. And it looked like they had left in a hurry. Now, wait a minute. There's 3 white women. That's enough for a full-scale investigation. And when they look to see if any of these women's bank cards have been used, police find surveillance footage of a light-skinned black man using Joan Marie's card. Guess who the nigga is? Your boy Richard's pretty face ass. So they start sniffing around Richard. And what Richard do? He hit the road, Jack. This nigga hauls ass to Texas. Well, again, it's 3 white women. Texas ain't far enough, son. Police don't necessarily know what happened to Joan Marie, but they think she didn't give Richard her card to just be out here using all willy-nilly. So they charge Richard with 1 count of theft, even though he ain't nowhere to be found, and that's enough for a parole violation. Because remember, this nigga been on some type of probation or parole since his teenage years. So, you can run and you can hide, but nigga, the police can also plaster your picture all over to find that ass. And that's exactly what they did. Well, when his photos started circulating, some of the people that was at the going away party was like, shit, wait a minute. Dude was at the party. And now Christine and Teresa both missing. So they drop a dime to the cops that the man that they looking for cashing out on Joan Marie, he might have had something to do with wherever Christine and Teresa ended up at. Y'all ready for a plot twist? Check this out. On June 26, 1989, the day after the party, tell me why Richard and a woman that looked like Teresa Brown, the roommate that was leaving, right? They are on camera renting a storage room. Say what? Yes. And how about this? When they pulled the rental agreement, it had Christine Ruch's signature on. Christine is the other roommate that's missing. Now what the fuck is going on here? Now Teresa, there with Richard getting the storage room. The clerks say that Teresa looked like she was stressed the fuck out, and the man she was with was giving her all the information to put on the form. Well, you didn't think that was strange, ma'am? Okay. She said the man that Teresa was with was mixed with dark hair, and he was good looking with a nice build. Bitch, you thirsty much? This nigga a whole ass killer with a bitch that looked like she shook, and you still trying to hit that? Ugh. But guess what? The plot is still twisting because after Richard had Teresa rent that storage room, there is security camera footage from ATMs all around Kansas showing Christine making withdrawals. And baby, them images make it look like somebody had done put hands on Christine. Honey, her hair is a mess. Just a mess. Just all over her head. And she got this big ass bandage on her face like somebody had done dotted her right eye. Now what I want to know is, where the fuck was Christine while Richard and Teresa was renting that storage room? I mean, please believe, if you kidnap my ass and leave me alone, I'm running. If I can. So why didn't Christine run? Where was she at? I got so many questions, as well as what happened after she got that money from the ATM. Questions nobody will be able to answer, honey, because after that, it's like they disappeared like a fart in the wind. Ain't nobody seen their asses since. So police go, they search the storage room, and they find a bunch of hair. White woman hair. And I ain't talking about the kind that look like you just got a haircut or some shit. This was that ripped out by the goddamn handful type of hair. They tested that shit against the hair from brushes at the girl's apartment. It was a match to both of them. Okay. So then police, they check out the address that was used to rent the storage room. It come back to a post office box that was rented by somebody named Ricky Y.C. Cho. Y'all remember him? That's Richard's Korean alter ego that he was using when he was writing them badass checks. Okay. So police, they go back and they search Christine and Teresa's spot one more time. This time they find pubic hairs. Them mugs belong to Richard. All right. Where the fuck is Richard's punk ass at? They then find Richard's car. That brown Toyota. Yeah, honey. June 27th, they found that bitch in Grandview, Missouri. And inside his car, Shit that belonged to Christine and Teresa. I'm talking about shit like their credit cards. Who gonna leave their credit card on a little random yeah car? You know, that's just my little yeah. You ain't finna leave that credit card. They also found a big ass knife that had blood on it. Oh shit, that don't sound good for Christine and Teresa still being on this side of the land of the living. I'm just saying, it's definitely time to find this nigga. And they did. They have put his pretty face on blast and said that he is wanted for questioning. Somebody called Crime Stoppers and dropped a dime that Richard would be at the Dallas airport the morning of July 7th, 1989 to pick somebody up. Richard had done started living it up in Dallas. Police took the tip seriously, and they were at the airport that Friday morning, and there was Richard. They took him right on into custody. Come on, go with us, sir. Somebody want to talk to you. They also found a stolen car from Missouri outside the airport, but they say they couldn't tie it to Richard, which I don't know why they couldn't because I'm sure his fingerprints were all over that mug. But okay, Dallas, they held him on a parole violation, and the Kansas police, they hightailed it to Texas so they could discuss what these damn white women were in more detail with Richard. Of course, Richard didn't know nothing, hadn't seen nothing, and didn't know now one of these women. Okay, Richard. And Kansas was like, all right, we're going to go back to Kansas and talk about this shit some more. And Richard was like, nah, son, I'm good right here where I am. And y'all know how if you in one state and another state wants you, they extradite you back to wherever the shit went down, right? Honey, Richard fought that extradition with everything that he had. He told the judge he didn't want to go back. He was in Dallas and that's where he wanted to stay. You can fight, but you won't win. You will just delay the inevitable because there is a way to drag that ass back to face the music. The Kansas cops went to the governor of Kansas and had him put a warrant out on Richard. Who the fuck knew that governors could do that? We all learned something new today. Well, while Richard was fighting extradition, they went on ahead and made it official so that he would know without a doubt what the fuck was about to go down. Richard was charged on August 16th, 1989, while he was still in Texas. 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of aggravated kidnapping, 4 counts of aggravated robbery, 2 counts of aggravated burglary, 1 count of regular burglary, and 1 count of theft. It wouldn't be until November of 1989 that they would get that ass back to Kansas to stand trial. Now, mind you, they ain't got body the first, but them murder charges, we moving forward. They got enough circumstantial evidence to paint the motherfucking picture of what had happened was a murderation. Oh, yes. Once they got back to Kansas, this nigga cools his heels at the big boy prison, honey. No county for you. And he waits on the legal maneuverings to shake out and do what they gonna do. And finally, in March of 1990, they finally settled on charging him with 3 counts of murder, and then they bust down them aggravated robbery charges to just simple robbery. On March 14th, 1990, Richard Grissom Jr. pled not guilty to all that shit. October 22nd, 1990, Richard's case finally goes to trial. Now, the prosecution, they contend that Richard is a Don Juan. This nigga's looks keeps coming up, right? They say he meets women, charms them, persuades them to give him some money, and then he kills them and steals their cars and whatever cash and cards that he can get his hands on. And we know from his past, he don't mind taking cars. We know from the sponsor, this nigga broke. That seems pretty plausible. Now, the defense, on the other hand, they was like, it wasn't me. I don't know who, I don't know why, and I don't know what. The end. They said that the police had coerced Richard into saying that he was a killer. Okay, nigga, if you say so. Well, the jury was like, we don't believe none of that shit. And 6 days before his 30th birthday, they convicted that ass on all counts November 4th, 1990. They gave that nigga 4 life sentences as a birthday present. Eat that nigga. Woo, they said that motherfucker didn't even flinch. Said he just swallowed real hard. When the judge asked the jury, was it unanimous? And they was like, sure was. Said Richard took it straight to the head. No chaser. And I was tripping because some way, somehow, even though he got all these life sentences, he still had a chance for parole. Like, how, Sway? But then I saw, oh, they was being funny. Cause guess when he's eligible for parole? In 2093, when he 133 years old. Okay, I'm cool with that. I also want to point out for you that they had a little bit of a get back party on Pretty Ricky's ass right there in the courtroom. Now, you know how most of the time when the verdict is being read, the judge tell everybody to behave, no outbursts, sit your ass down and be still, act like you know where you at type of situation. Well, in this particular case, after the verdict was read, these motherfuckers had a whole ass party up in that bitch. They was high-fiving and hell yeah, they dancing and shit. I'm talking about everybody. I really didn't make this up, y'all. Listen to this excerpt from the Olet Daily News on November 4th, the same day the shit went down. Quote, as Grissom was led from the courtroom, the room erupted in joy and relief. Family members hugged each other, police hugged police, everybody hugged the district attorney Paul Morrison, and the merriment continued down the corridor outside the courtroom as the families made their way to yet another courtroom, the site of a pre-announced news conference. Another courtroom? What, that was the after party? You can't even make this shit up, and I ain't even mad. Because if I had the chance to crook walk on a bed for killing my peoples after he had just caught 4 life sentences to the dome, I would too. Fuck you, you murdering murderer that murders. Uh-huh. Oh, Pretty Ricky is inmate number 0033728, and he is housed at the El Dorado Correctional Facility in El Dorado, Kansas. He'll be 65 this year and still yet holding on. And while in prison, this nigga still can't do right. He got about 10 infractions on his prison disciplinary report so far. I'm talking about for contraband, putting hands on a bitch, and of course, theft. Old habits die hard, I guess. You better sit your senior citizen ass down somewhere, Pretty Ricky. And that, Noir Nation, was the story of Richard Grissom Jr. And the bodies of those women that he was convicted of killing have never been found to this day. Now, I wanted to do this story because for a while now, our victims of these motherfucking mayhem makers have been women that were addicts and sex workers. And while I want you to know all the stories, I also don't want y'all to get to thinking that serial offenders only go after the easy prey of the women that are down and out, right? This nigga wasn't fucking with no broke bitches. He was a straight up gold digger and he went after chicks with a business on point. Serial offenders don't fall into just one category. They come in all shapes and sizes and flavors, from the straight up crazy looking to the good looking pretty boys. Their victims also run the spectrum too. Richard only went after women that had their shit together. Women that would be missed immediately. So don't get caught slipping, man or woman, because we all know somebody that lay up on a sponsor. What happens when the sponsor don't want to be the supporter of the leech in their house no more? Everybody don't just go quietly, so we got to be mindful of how things can play out. As humans, we love to think the best of people and that the worst would never happen. It can, and it does. So protect yourself, Noir Nation, because you know I love you like that, right? And right now, it's time for you to get on it, doggone it. Put me on blast in the group chat, y'all. Tell all your peoples about your favorite country girl and her stories of mayhem. Get at me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. I am the Melanin Mayhem Podcast. And on X, I am Melanin Mayhem PC. My DMs are open and they jumping. Y'all can send me an email too at melaninmayhempodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget, y'all, there is a private Facebook discussion group where we cut up a little bit. Just look for it under Melanin Mayhem Podcast discussion group and get down with the get down. This week's Noir Nation shout out goes to Tanya Miss Sugar Brown from Spotify, who said, "Baby, I'm listening and just hollering. Nay, you ain't missing not a beat with these zingers and strays. Ma'am, you must be stopped, yet you better not. I've been behind a bit, yet I'm back and catching up and cackling. Woo child." Tanya Miss Sugar Brown, thank you, girl, for the review. And you keep cackling, Chica, because we on our can't stop, won't stop, no diddy kind of time. I got so much in the pipeline for y'all. So many good collaborations are on the way, as well as some in-person events. So stay tuned for some good shit, because the BTCC is coming. What's the BTCC, Nay? You gonna see. Just know you can never have too much of a good thing, and when we come together, we are unstoppable. Now let me get in here and chop this thing up so it'll be ready for your listening pleasure. I love y'all to the moon and back. Have a fabulous rest of your week, and remember, stay safe, stay vigilant, and also remember that if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. It's one love, Noir Nation, and the country girl is out of here.